Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request, this time from Lucas. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos or topics, tier lists, reviews, re-reviews, whatever, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for The Great Mouse Detective from 1980, 85, 86, I think around 86. This is a film I had heard of but I'd never seen. And from what I understand, this was a nice, not a blockbuster hit, but nice step up for Disney because The Black Cauldron had come out and was a big bomb. And Disney was not doing the best in terms of finances. And this is one of those films that was a nice little size hit and helped them a bit. So damn you, if it was for you, maybe Disney would have gone under. We wouldn't have this BS today. Nah, not really. But this was a pretty good film. This was very short, surprisingly short, pretty fast-paced, very nicely animated. Some things I was surprised were in it. They're a little bit ballsy for this type of Disney movie. The voice work nicely done. Vincent Price as your villain, Rattidian, Professor Rattidian. Always nice to have Vincent Price in there. It's always a big plus. And overall, this was pretty decent. The story is that this little mouse girl, her dad, makes toys and stuff, and makes her a toy for her birthday. So one thing leads to another, or at least, I can't remember if it was her birthday, makes her a present. If it's not her birthday, just makes her a present. And something's at the door. The dad hides his daughter, and you see a silhouette of them fighting. Kind of like that little detail to do it all in silhouette. The girl finds out that her dad's been taken, needs help, takes place in London, so goes to see the Basil of Baker Street, which is a take on Sherlock Holmes. And they call him Basil after Basil Rathbone, who played Sherlock Holmes in many of the films back in the day. And you have this other mouse that has arrived in London, doesn't really know what to do next, finds the girl, she needs to find where the street is, he helps her, and he's a guy named Dawson. So, who's a take on Watson. There's even a line in dialogue when they do meet Basil where he goes, "Elementary, my dear Dawson," instead of Watson. So it's an animated version of Sherlock Holmes. So at this point, Basil is looking at this bullet. I did find it funny that he's testing the bullet and he takes a pillow, just shoots it. And then the housemaid, she's getting pissed. "What are you doing here?" Good sound on the gunshot. Pretty good sound design on it. And he just thinks nothing of it. He's testing these bullets. But sadly, they're not the same. He's trying to get this bad guy, Rattidian. And they kind of find out that this girl will lead him to that villain. Because it was taken... Her dad was taken by this bat with a paid leg. And he's like, oh, that's something that works for Professor Rattidian. I like the idea of a rat with a paid leg. It's just pretty interesting detail. And he sounds like a gremlin. I thought that was kind of neat too. Where he did sound like a gremlin from the Gremlins movies. I can't even do it. It would kill my throat. So they're on the case. They're chasing it down. He has this dog named Toby, a big ass dog, and the Basil, the voices were solid for what they need to be. Maybe some people feel Basil, maybe they feel he's a little bit bland, but I don't think he was bad or anything. I'm sure nowadays they would have gotten some big time actor. Or honestly, if they did this today, they might have gotten Robert Downey Jr. since he played Sherlock Holmes in the live-action films. I will say that would have been cool. Like, if somehow, obviously, if you had someone like Robert Downey Jr. voicing Basil, I think that would have been better. Because, like I said, the voice actor was fine. But maybe if it was someone with a little bit more pizzazz, like if you had, I don't know, Sean Connery Like, if you had a bedtime actor like that, that would have been pretty cool. Or if you had a Roger Moore, or if you had, I'm trying to think of this time period of 1986 or so. Dustin Hoffman. Like, you had that kind of big time name to really give that commanding tone to. I keep wanting to say Sherlock Holmes, but to Basil. Like I said, the voice work was fine. I wish there was someone with a little bit more force, a little bit more impact with the voice. But the little girl mouse was cute. Thankfully, they did not make her annoying or irritating or want to tear your ears off and annoyance. Thankfully, they didn't do that. The dog Toby, I like the idea they didn't make that dog talk. It was just a dog. And the girl gets along very well with the dog very easily, to the point that Basil's almost annoyed by it. Thought that was a nice little detail, like choice in the script. And like I was saying, the movie does some surprising things for this time period of Disney. Number one, the villain. We want to establish that he is a villain. So they're singing this song, because they have to put songs in this, of course. Thankfully, there's not too many songs. There's, I think, 2. So at least it's not like 7, 8 that they try to force into the short running time. But I guess if it was Disney, so there's got to be songs somewhere. But this song wasn't too bad, where the criminals are singing to Radigan, the world's greatest mind. To Radigan, the world's greatest criminal mind. At least that had a little bit catchy ring to it. And plus there was a purpose, because one is so drunk. So that's one thing, that people get drunk in this. And calls him a rat, and he hates being called a rat, so he has a pet cat who comes out. And by silhouette you see that that the cat eats the mouse and kills him. It even burps. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that shows that the villain's willing to kill, that the villain is dangerous, that the villain is someone to not take lightly. Plus, it's voiced by Vincent Price. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty ballsy. I mean, more so than some films today, especially animated-wise. Same with that, you have ones that get drunk. Later on, Basil and Dawson are in a bar, and they're undercover, and Basil's smoking a cigarette. Imagine a character smoking a cigarette in a Disney film today. Not really going to happen, but here's like, yeah, he's smoking a cigarette. Like nothing of it, so. I don't know, those little details just made me go, yeah, it makes sense. He would do this to blend in with all these other ruffians and things of that nature. And it shows that there's a sense of danger involved. I did with the way the Ratadine kills one of his henchmen. It's like Disney forgets that when you do little stuff like this, it does help the all-around picture, because again, it makes the villain much more of a threat. Or like the environment where, yeah, people would be doing stuff like this, like in a bar. It makes it a little bit more seedier, like it usually is in real life. But hey, Disney, yeah, tell everybody's all sunshine and rainbows out there. Then when they get in the real world and you have a rude awakening, you're not going to be anywhere to be found to tell them, oh, yep, sorry, we know we lied to you. I'm not saying you have to do everything, go overboard, but a little bit goes a long way. And I didn't mind some of the little set pieces. There's a bit where Basil, Dawson, and the little girl find this toy store, and they realize that the bat had been there to steal some stuff, including some uniforms from these toy soldiers. The way the environment looked in that, some decent design. And the chase through the toy store. Now, there's not a lot of big set pieces compared to other Disney films. And that would sound stupid, But you think of compared to later on in a few years, you would get The Lion King, you would get Aladdin. If you think of like how many big sequences those films have, this one feels a bit smaller, feels a little bit more quaint. There's not as much crazy action or excitement in terms of chases or battles or fights. It's not much of that into it. So maybe some people could be disappointed on that aspect. Because other than the chase through the toy store, and then there's a bit they're undercover in a pub trying to find the girl, and inadvertently a fight breaks out during that, and our two leads escape. And then pretty much it leads to they think they know where to go, and one thing leads to another, and they get caught. They get out of it, and then it leads to our finale, which is definitely the best set piece in the film on this clock tower. So I guess watching it, I was expecting maybe a bit more action set pieces or chase set pieces, where it lead to a bit more locations, and maybe Basil or Dawson have to deal with the other mice that are under Ratigan's control, his henchmen, and either... I guess I keep thinking of like what they did with Robert Downey Jr. in the Sherlock Holmes movies. A little bit more of that, where there's a bit more action set pieces along with the Sherlock Holmes mystery solving. So maybe we'll like a bit more action in it. I'm surprised that I thought they were bringing a female love interest in it, because when they get to the bar, there's a lady singing, and Dawson's getting drunk, and he's kind of liking some of the girls. But the main girl singing, I thought, okay, as they're going to, she knows Basil, and maybe they were lovers back in the day, or something like that, girlfriend back to... No, they don't really play into that at all, and I'm quite surprised. And I would say in a good way, because not every movie needs a love interest, so I'm very surprised. Because again, as soon as she showed up, I'm like, okay, she's going to be either the love interest, or her and Basil have a past together. No, not at all. At least, if it was, I didn't notice it. And then I thought, okay, she's going to join, or either she's working with the bad guys, or she's going to work with the bad guys, but she's going to turn to the good guys because of her old fondness for Basil. No, none of that comes into play. So that was actually... I fooled myself into thinking that, so maybe it's not... Maybe I'm giving more credit to the movie than I should, but... Still, I appreciate that. Not every Disney movie needs a love interest scene as well. So I appreciate that. And the clock tower, that was definitely the big set piece, and I kind of wish more of the movie had these type of shots in it, because they escape this mousetrap, they get to this clock tower, and Basil is going through the gears, and some of the animation is a bit more fluid, or a bit more, is where to say higher budgeted. But you have like the lightning and the shadow work, and he's grabbing something to get the little girl from being crushed from his deer, and both of them are rising up, and Ratigan's getting more pissed off, and he's becoming almost like more of a feral rat. There's like a camera pan where he's like going through all the gears, and the camera's actually turning to make it more dynamic of a action sequence. I'm like, I wish there was more of that in the movie. Maybe because of flops like The Black Cauldron, they didn't put as much money into this as they usually would. I don't know. So I did like that whole set piece. Spoiler, the one thing I didn't like though is he saves a girl, and I understand Basil is not a fighter, but he's just getting his ass kicked, and then he kind of just lets out at the end. Just something, okay, he's getting his ass kicked, but again, look at what Robert Downey Jr. did in Sherlock Holmes. He's able to fight, outwit, using his mind. Something like that, but that's not really the case. It's pretty much he falls, he grabs something, and pretty much lucked out because by this point, Rattigan is on the part of a clock tower where it rains, it shakes, and he falls down to his death. I didn't feel like Basil did much to stop the villain on his own. It just felt like he lucked out. I figured if you can't do it physical, then do it mental. Do it where he's always talking about how Rattigan is smarter than him, how Rattigan, he'd outthink him. Have a way to outthink Rattigan at this point. If that's what they were showing, I think they could show that more clearly. Maybe where he looks at something and he looks at the clock and the camera then focuses at his eyes as if he got a light bulb, an idea, and then he's like, goading him, making fun of his intellectual prowess and lack thereof, and goading him into following him onto this spot. He knows the guy hates being called a rat, so he uses that to his benefit. He's calling him a rat over and over and over again. Instead of, Rattigan just keeping smacking him, cutting him up, smacking him. Like, to use that to show a bit more initiative on Basil's part, I would have preferred that. Again, it just felt like he won out of luck than because of his talent or because of his intellectual prowess. So, I had that little issue there. And again, I wish there was a bit more action set pieces like the clock tower sequence to make the film a bit more exciting. And again, Basil, his voice was fine, but I kind of wish there was a little bit more of a commanding performance for that character. But with that said, it's still nicely animated. It's pretty fast paced. There's no stupid jokes, no infantile jokes. There's some nice designs of the characters. Again, not every day you see a bat with a paid leg. That's a fun design. There's some nice cuteness for the kids. Again, Toby the dog and the little cute mouse girl who wasn't irritating. And, it's still a nice idea, this showcase of Sherlock Holmes and this type of realm. I do think a little bit more could have been done with the plot. That's just me. But overall, pretty decent affair. Pretty decent flick. So, I read up somewhere that apparently there was going to be some kind of follow-up where Basil would be chosen to find Mickey Mouse, because Mickey Mouse is missing or been kidnapped. But I guess that idea kind of got thrown out, and it is what it is. I'm surprised Disney has not done some big animated film with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck or like a Pixar level of a movie. Think of like Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, but on a Pixar level of quality. I think that'd be an interesting thing to see. Just don't put any bullshit agendas in it. But they can't help themselves, so maybe, give them to the guys who did Wall-E and leave them the fuck alone. Maybe do that, because I love Wall-E. Anyway, I'm going off tangent. But yeah, that's a great Mouse Detective. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.